Hey guys, welcome back to the DM and Friends. I am DM Angelo, and today with my collaborative video with Eric Tenkar that we've been doing every Monday, we're going to be talking about multiple characters for one player. And he's going to probably be referencing the BX side, and I'm going to reference what's in first edition DMG. And Gary writes something very specific about it. There's 3 paragraphs on page 111 that he goes right into this subject. It's titled Multiple Characters for a Single Player. So we're going to cover that today, and yeah, let's check it out. Let's get right into it. So why this even matters, right? So I think in modern play culture, especially like, 3rd edition and into the current edition, 5e, there's an unspoken assumption, right, that one player, one character, period, right? So, but in early D&D, all versions kind of old school, that wasn't the case. And, campaigns were long and attendance kind of rotated, players died a lot and tables were often a lot smaller, right? So Gary addressed this directly in the DMG. And so for those of you guys following on page 111, and I have my beat up copy that I actually underline in a lot. There's others back here, but this is the one that I destroy. But anyways, so he says there is no absolute prohibition regarding multiple characters belonging to a single player. And so he says no absolute prohibition, right? So that's Gary telling you that this is allowed, in the game, and this is viable. But this is the important key that we'll kind of dive into a little later. It requires discipline by the player. So when is this appropriate, right? So Gygax gives a few specific scenarios, right, where it makes sense, right? So on the same paragraph, he says, for instance, when a major character of a player is off to some special trip, he or she may be allowed to use a new character rather than playing the part of one of his or her character's henchmen. So that's funny. That doesn't say simultaneously, but it says you should have a second character, right? So I think that's pretty practical, right? So he also does say, just below that, in fact, one player can have several characters provided he or she is a good cooperative campaign participant capable of properly handling such multiple roles, right? So that right there is the kind of the gate that he's stating, right? Not everyone qualifies, right? So this isn't about optimization, right? It's about maturity, right? I said discipline a minute ago. Old school assumes something modern culture, I think, often forgets, right? The table runs on trust, right? And we've done videos kind of on where I've kind of double clicked on trust. So anyways, so the hard rules, kind of separation that he gets into here is now, here's where he kind of gets firm, right? So he says the multiple characters, right, should not be associates, should not automatically share information, should not automatically be friends, right? They cannot freely interchange money or magic items. I guess I want to translate that, into plain gaming terms, right? So no metagaming, no inventory funneling, no backdoor power stacking, right? Each character must be played as an individual, right? And that can be difficult for a player, right? So and this is critical. He kind of says this too. One should not know information or be able to communicate knowledge which is particular to him or her to the other, right? So that's old school kind of anti-metagame doctrine, in my opinion, right? Your fighter doesn't magically know what your wizard learned last week, like what new spell I learned, just because you, the player, know it, right? So you have to distinguish between that player and character knowledge, right? And like I said, I think it's kind of difficult for some players to do. I've seen it done successfully, and then I've seen it fail miserably. So, that level of discipline, and honesty, right? If a player can't separate that mentally, then they're not ready to run multiple characters, right? So now here's my kind of favorite part. Right? Gary writes this, right? He says, as a DM, you must be prepared to step in and take the part of one such character if the player is abusing the privilege, right? So I know that's cold and that's direct. If you start abusing it, the DM takes over, right? And he even says, um, he even says, do it quickly and firmly, and the player will be likely to understand that you will broke no foolishness, particularly if the character you take the persona of becomes hostile and aggressive to demands from the other, right? So that's old school authority, right? We've talked about that before too. And before people get sensitive about this, remember AD&D assumed the DM was a referee, not the committee member, right? So he's making a judgment, and this isn't working. Okay, I'll take control of this. So why this worked I think in early campaigns, right? So let's kind of back up a little bit. Why did it exist, right? So because early campaigns were sprawling, right? Players might have a dungeon delving character or a backup character in case of death, which I've actually had players do. A character operating in a different region or something like that, right? You also see support for this philosophy in early material, right? So in early tournament modules, in campaign reports, in Dragon magazine from the late 70s and 80s, right? It wasn't uncommon to reference players having multiple PCs in a campaign world or in tournaments, especially in large shared kind of settings, right? Even in like strategic play discussed in early Dragon magazine, the tone assumes players may control like henchmen and secondary adventurers or simultaneously, right? So the difference is they were expected to act separately, and there's no hive mind, right? So when should you allow it today, right? I generally, well, let me back up. So I generally don't allow it at my table, and I do allow for them to kind of control the henchmen, but I'll step in and play the part of loyalty and stuff like that. But let's say when combat comes up, I'll have them control the henchmen or the retainers or the hirelings or whatever. But as far as their mental side or their personality side, I control that as the DM. And I'll step in and say, no, that guy wouldn't do that. Or, let's say they give something to him or want something taken from them. I'll control the fact of like the opposing side. It's not a easy transaction all the time where, oh, this henchman found this, so it's mine now. So I very much so stay away from that. But in combat situations, I usually allow them or have them control their own henchmen and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd love to hear how you guys do that. So now here's something interesting. Multiple characters can actually, I think, strengthen a campaign, right? They allow different moral perspectives, if the discipline's there, faction play, organic kind of rivalries, living world continuity. Imagine one player running, a lawful cleric of St. Cuthbert and then a chaotic mercenary. I think that's a real high level player that can kind of separate themselves and play those two players. I think it's awesome. So the real issue here, the topic isn't about multiple characters, really. It's about discipline, I think, and trust. And it's whether, your table operates like a cooperative campaign or like a competitive kind of simulator, right? Gary didn't ban it, right? He just assumed that you'd be adults. And if you weren't, he gave the DM permission to step in and freaking, grab that character sheet and say, nope, I'm playing this bad boy. Quickly and firmly, like he says in there, read these three chapters, 3 paragraphs, and he really sums it up. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, so quickly, firmly grab it back. So, I'll handle this. It's kind of not, it doesn't make sense, or, you don't even have to talk about it. Just say, I'm taking this character for now. So here's the takeaway for this subject, and I hope this all made sense. But multiple characters per player are absolutely old school, legitimate. But they're not casual. They require separation and role discipline. They require no metagaming bleed, like that will make me grab the sheet quicker than anything. If you can handle that, right? Question mark, right? You can make the world deeper. The more the merrier, right? So there's my take on that. Like I said, personally, I do allow multiple players to have multiple characters, but generally not simultaneously. Now, I'm not talking about henchmen, hirelings, and all that stuff, but not simultaneously. I feel that in like my current group, I think there's 6 to 8 players. That's enough for the group. And then if they hire retainers or any kind of followers or henchmen, I'll take control of their personalities and etc. So, all right, if you like diving into what Gary says, and you like cracking open the DMG with me, and seeing kind of diving into some of these little pieces, hit the like button, subscribe, tell another DM about it. I'll look forward to the next one. All right, you guys. Well, as always, keep gaming. Take care of yourselves. And have a good one. Bye-bye.